thoughts on the Palworld / Pokemon controversy. You guys seen this Pokemon with guns game? Like that everyone is buying?
Palworld. It's on my wish list.
I haven't played it yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care about playing it because I don't really care about survival games that much. But all the conversation is just around how I guess it looks like Pokemon and the weird.
Yeah, it does. It's like Pokemon, but they have guns.
I think it's funny that Twitter people still haven't realized that the more that you take a video game and tell everyone that they shouldn't play it, the more people want to play it.
I know.
I think it's funny that they haven't figured that out yet. That's the funniest part.
They tried it with Harry Potter and it didn't work.
Yeah, that was literally the most successful game of last year. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Harry Potter one? Oh, yeah. But I still haven't played it, by the way.
Me neither.
I haven't either, but not because I was told not to, but because I don't think Harry Potter is interesting at all. I was never a Harry Potter fan, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't play the games. The movies are fine, but I wouldn't play the game like I would, I don't know, a franchise I like. Oh, speaking of video games or whatever, sorry if it's
Sure, go for it.
We've mentioned it on the show before. That Lies of P game.
How was it?
Oh yeah. Oh, have you played it?
We talked about it years ago.
We made fun of the name or something. Yeah,
but I played it. It's fucking awesome.
I've heard it's really good. Yeah, I've heard it's actually awesome.
It is really good. It's like a Souls-like game, but yeah, it's really.
It's supposed to be the best Souls-like. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's like
I've heard it was pretty well optimized for PC and stuff.
It's like a first-time studio. I think it's their first game or one of their first. Definitely on this scale, right? And it's damn good game. Great take on the story. I'd love to see more games like that. The Souls as long as it's creative and whatever, then I don't care if it's
doing it well. Yeah
done like Dark Souls or whatever. Yeah, that was a really good game. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, why couldn't they just call it Lies of Pinocchio? That's my thing.
Yeah. It's an odd title.
Such a crazy name. Yeah. Yeah, but I've heard that it's solid.
Yeah, I guess with the Palworld controversy, a lot of people are getting really up in arms over similarities between it and Pokemon. I thought that the similarities were pretty explicit in the sense that my understanding was that it was always kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of parody. Now, I understand now that both companies are in Japan where fair use law doesn't exist, and even though parody is one of the strongest protections for fair use, it doesn't exist there. So I can understand why legally as a company, Palworld would want to be no, we don't even know what Pokemon is. Okay, sure. But ethically, I feel like they should still be able to make their game. It's not it's obviously not the same market. It's not like they're making just reskinning Pokemon Blue or it doesn't look like a Pokemon game. It just looks like there's some characters that look like Pokemon.
The mechanics are completely different.
Who gives a shit? If we're going to try and get really morally panicky about Palworld, then we should have done the same thing with fucking Digimon. What was that? That was obviously a Pokemon ripoff. What do you think that was?
Yeah.
There's things that try to capitalize. I would say that's more of a Pokemon ripoff because they had the whole card game too. They were trying to capitalize off of the Pokemon craze in the exact same way, in very similar ways. Sure, they had differences in terms of the story in the show, but in terms of the market that they're trying to get, just a bunch of kids trying to get them addicted to the idea of these little companions and whatever. Digimon was way more of a ripoff of Pokemon than Palworld was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the heart of what the IP was getting at. Whereas I don't know, Pokemon with guns sort of thing, doing a survival whatever, slave labor thing, it's obviously going for a different thing. Sure, is it capitalizing off of some sort of vague recognition of the idea of a Pokemon type thing? Sure, but I don't know. Is everybody that makes a zombie movie, do you have to pay licenses to George A. Romero? I don't think that should be the case, right? I think that after a while, when something's existed in pop culture for so long, it's essentially a genre, right? And I think that people should be able to make things in that genre.
Yeah, I think it's only morally an issue if, because there were some allegations that 3D models were being used or kind of traced or something like this, and I don't think there's any evidence that's come forward to prove that. But that's the only thing I could really think of, is if they're actually using elements and straight up stealing it, then that would be more of a moral place to stand on. But otherwise, if it is just parody or kind of very similar looking designs, you can't really do much about that.
I'm absolutely unsure as to whether or not that's the case, because somebody made a Twitter thread being like, look, these parts of the models line up exactly, and then someone else was like, okay, well, then they admitted that they had to scale it for it to line up, and then people are like, okay, well, scaling doesn't necessarily mean that it's not similar. As far as I understand, the assets from certain Pokemon games could have been used as a way to, I don't know if we want to say trace, but to base their own models off of, but that they didn't literally include Pokemon assets and models in the game.
Yeah.
And again, if it were an American company, they would have the strongest protections ever for parody, fair use law, that you would be able to argue in court that you even could directly take models and assets from the Pokemon game. If a parody is what you're making, those protections don't exist in Japan. So I don't think the company would be stupid enough to literally use assets from the game. But we'll see how things go. It could be very interesting. Maybe they'll get shut down or something. At the very least, maybe Pokemon Company and or Nintendo will send them some threatening legal letters. Maybe it'll play out in court. It should be very interesting. I'm kind of really intrigued about the somebody made a Pokemon mod for Palworld, a YouTuber.
Oh, that's already down. I think that's already been acted on.
Nintendo sent them a threatening legal letter, and I still want to play it. I want to play it with the Pokemon mod.
They're extremely litigious, Nintendo, as a company. So, I would not be surprised.
Sometimes it's just threats. Sometimes it won't actually wind up in court, depending on what you're doing. I would say putting it behind a paywall is a bad idea. It was up for his patrons or whatever.
They've gone after free mods and things before. I remember someone making I think it was a Metroid mod or something. They were doing something with Metroid, and that was
fan games.
A big fan project that was shut down. Yeah, fan games. They'll often shut down.
When it's a fan game, you don't really have as much protections with you could make an argument, sure, but fan game is essentially just you're already admitting oh, I want to use this property and expand on it and monetize,
we have your code. We're using your code. Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's not using their code explicitly, using the same universe. You don't just get to show up and be like, I'm making Waterworld 2, right? You don't,
although
that's a property that...
no one would care if you did.
If you make a Waterworld parody, if there's a criticism, you're poking fun at the original in some way, then that's a very strong protection.
Yeah.
For fair use.
Yeah, it's just a weird, I don't know, the way conversations unravel on Twitter with these outrage mobs that just appear, like the one around this game, and some of them claiming, oh, there's egregious AI usage in Palworld, and everyone starts getting in a fervor about it and all upset, and then it turns out there's no evidence anywhere to even suggest AI inclusion. So it's
no,
you're just already angry. You're just looking where to jump. It's what is your investment?
There's legitimate reasons that anybody could be angry at anything, and there's probably legitimate reasons that someone might be angry at Palworld, and maybe there's a bunch of people within this mob that have their own actual reasons. But whenever I see something like this, I think it's, it bringing back the NPC meme. A lot of these people are just they found the thing that everybody's freaking out about and are joining that because people are freaking out about it and doing moral posturing and, what's the word? Virtue signaling. Just a lot of hey, everybody, look how moral I am. And I take issue against this, when it's maybe just wait for more information to come out. Maybe have your own opinions. Not saying you can't be anti-Palworld or anything. It should just be coming from something that you thought out. But I guess that's too much to ask from people.
Yeah,
I think it's also a lot of children on Twitter.
Yeah, especially if you have angry Pokemon fans in there. I'm sure many of those will be little kiddies.